Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Cripescast. This is the podcast where we talk to people for and or from the Midwest. I am your host, Charlie Behrens. We are powered by Everlight Solar, and here is today's episode. Hey, folks. Welcome to the Cripescast. Today, my guest is Kristopher Pollard of Milwaukee Film. He is also the co-host of the Cinebuds podcast. Super excited to have Kristopher on because we are going to talk about the Milwaukee film scene and what it takes to make sort of a great film scene in a city, for your city to become known for this thing, you know, in the way that Nashville is known for music or Austin is known for music, but also now comedy. Like, how do you develop a city or a scene within a city? Milwaukee's kind of there with film. The University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee is one of the best film schools in the country, and Milwaukee Film is just a really well-respected film festival. At the same time, we've got a lot of cool local theaters, independently owned theaters, and so we got a lot of the pillars, a lot of the building blocks for making a scene, and I'm just kind of diving into that with Kristopher. And this is something that I've always sort of been interested in, like, how do you make your city known for something? Like, how does just how does that happen? And obviously it takes time, but it also takes sort of these building blocks. So anyway, I'm just diving in, sort of nerding out with Kristopher on that. We have a very fun conversation. Yes, I brought up AI. Yes, I brought up Hook. So, you knew that was going to happen, though. So anyways, Colleen Maraca, EP of the podcast, she is not here today, helping me co-host this intro. She is at the Brewers-Cubs game with her grandparents. They are all Cubs fans, and I'm sorry to say they're going to watch the Cubs lose today. I'm so sorry to say that. I don't know that for sure, but, historically speaking, that's what's going to happen, all right? It's not looking good for the Cubbies this year. Anyways, that's unfortunate for them, but we still love them, even though they're Cubs fans, and I'm kind of bummed I was supposed to meet Colleen's grandparents today, but our schedule is conflicted because I am going to the casino with my grandma Sue. So, we'll have to find another day. You can't interfere with casino time. All right. Yeah, that's right. Me and my grandma Sue, grandma Sue's best casino friend, Lois Bentley. She'll be there. My Aunt Mary. We're all going to drive over to Ho Chunk Casino and test our luck, ladies and gentlemen. They'll be on the slot machines. I'm going to be doing blackjack, but, I don't know. It's a nice day out. Maybe I'll do some slot machines, too. It's beautiful out. Jeez Louise, I can't believe we're going to go spend the day in the casino. But you know what? I'll tell you this. It is also very beautiful inside the casino. You got, like, the beautiful bright lights. You're basically outside, honestly, if you think about it. Or if you don't think about it. But, so let's see here. Before my conversation with Kristopher, I want to let you guys know that I am on tour, and if you're looking for any tickets, we got them right at there, Cripescast.com. You can click on the tour section. I'm going to be at the Northwoods, up north, Chippewa Falls, there, Northwoods State Fair. I'm going to be at the Lumberjack Festival. I'm going to be at the Wisconsin State Fair. It's going to be a good time this summer. I love playing the fairs. Just a blast. If you guys are looking for any of those tickets, check it out there. And also, we are continuing to raise money for Doctors Without Borders. We've been doing that for 7 months now, and Doctors Without Borders is doing great work across the world, but they are always going right to the areas of conflict, and I think they're such a positive force in a world when we really need a lot of positive force. This past week we saw more civilians killed in Rafah this time, and then shortly after that we've got our politicians going over to the Middle East and signing bombs, and it's just like, I don't know, it's so disheartening. I'm not trying to get on a soapbox here, but that this I don't think we can kill our way to peace. I don't think we can do that. If we could, I think it would have worked by now. I mean, we as humans have been trying it for thousands of years. Still hasn't worked. So anyway, that's why I've been trying to push Doctors Without Borders. I think they're adding love into the world, and they're really going out on a limb and doing their best until there is a ceasefire, until there is a return of hostages, until these, people who are more concerned about politics than they are concerned about the lives of children, the lives of the innocent people, whoever they may be, women, men, children, whatever, until their focus it shifts from politics to love. I think organizations like Doctors Without Borders are really doing a great job. And so anyways, check them out, doctorswithoutborders.org. You can follow them at Doctors Without Borders. We've been donating as a podcast, and I think all these conflicts are frustrating to watch. It's frustrating to hear the news, but this is sort of a positive place you can put your energy. At least that's the way I've been thinking about it. So anyways, okay, we will now get to my conversation with Kristopher Pollard, ladies and gentlemen. And it's going to be a good one. I hope you're excited. All right, here we go.
We had a whole thing in gym on bow and arrow. It's like, so we would shoot in as elementary school kids.
Yeah.
Which I think probably doesn't happen anymore, but it's Missouri, so it might still, it may still happen.
Was it grade school or high school?
It was grade school.
See, that's pretty, was it real tips?
No, it was like, they were
like, were they
pointed-ish? They weren't like the razor sharp.
No, but they were the field tips, right?
Is that where it's just like curved to a very gradual
dome?
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you shot, someone would go through.
Yes.
Yeah.
We were in danger.
Yeah.
But it was in the gym too. We had targets at the end of the gym.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I guess it's, I feel like that is smart because it teaches you how to handle a bow. Because as we all know that's something that you need in life.
That's right. It has come in so handy in so many situations. We also went to a shooting range in 8th grade. So they at least waited till
with
8th
the guns?
Grade. Yeah.
That's Missouri, huh?
In our ecology. That was in our ecology class too.
Yeah. What ecological thing were you learning about
how
22?
To kill everything in the ecology. I think we shot a rifle at a range and we did skeet.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, that's fun. That's kind of like Boy Scouts.
Excited. Yeah.
So in Missouri, school is like Boy Scouts.
Yeah, I think so. It's closer to that than school.
How do you feel about Missouri being, considered kind of a bastard child of the Midwest?
Oh, that is true. I didn't know until I moved here that people don't consider it the Midwest. They're like, that's the South.
Yeah.
And I was confused because in school we learn exactly which states are Midwest, which ones are South. And I know we're close.
It's funny that you learn in school. You learned a lot of different stuff in school. We never learned what states were part of the Midwest. Well, I say never, but I also maybe just don't remember.
Yeah, that's also possible.
But you never at any point ever considered yourself not part of the Midwest family as a Missourian, huh?
No, and geographically, we're right next to the center state, which is Kansas.
Right.
And we're next to Illinois, which is no one doubts is the Midwest. We're in the center of those two. So geographically it makes sense. Culturally, I get it. We're like the worst. Missouri has the worst parts of the Southern culture, but none of like the good food or music. It just has the.
Well, St. Louis
is Kansas City, right on the tips of the state. And then in the center, there's a college town called Columbia.
Okay.
Which is great. Those 3 spots are what I call the safe areas.
Okay.
The places I feel most comfortable. But the rest of it, not so much.
No.
It's St. Louis is nice, yeah.
Okay. But now for Missouri, the rest of it.
Yeah.
What's I feel like I know driving through. Is it kind of like everything in Illinois that isn't Chicago, kind of?
Yeah.
Well, now there's a lot of people listening to this that are upset.
Yeah.
They're like, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't feel safe there?
It's weird because I grew up in a kind of a rural
So you grew up there.
Yeah, I grew up there it's like right on the border between, it was very rural and very suburban.
Right.
And, I grew up there, I was used to it. But once I left and like moved to cities, now going back, I'm like, I'm more uncomfortable where I grew up than I am in a city, which like my folks would be uncomfortable in a city, but I'm more comfortable there.
But you're more comfortable in the city. But
you
go back to, kind of the country, if you will, and they see that tattoo.
Oh yeah.
And they're thinking one way or what is that?
Well,
tattoo,
they have plenty of. Oh yeah, this is from the movie The Warriors.
Oh,
do you know that movie?
No, I don't.
There's a famous scene at the end where the villain has 3 beer bottles on his fingers and he clinks them together while going, "Warriors, come out to play." Which, if people don't know the movie, sometimes know the reference because that reference has been made like Simpsons and all these other places for years.
I feel so. Actually, that's a good transition because when it comes to like film or something you're an expert in, it's something that I was like, I know the references I know.
Right.
But then when someone makes a reference that they're like, yeah, everybody knows this reference and you don't know it, you just feel like you're kind of, a jerk a little bit.
No, you shouldn't. This is a slightly more obscure. A lot of pop culture references to it, but it's not like I'm the king of the world. It's not that big of a reference.
Well, when it comes to sort of film, like generally speaking in Milwaukee, obviously you're involved with Milwaukee Film and your podcast Cinebuds, and you kind of are, you're surrounded so much of the year in not just the local Milwaukee scene, but sort of the national scene as something on the local scene breaks out, in your podcast, you talk about everything. I guess my first question is, we'll just start off with that. How does, like a kid from rural Missouri get in such a love for film that you have that tattoo on your arm?
I think a lot of it had to do with my cousin's family. Like my brothers and sisters, they liked movies and they liked music, but my cousin's family, they were essentially just more brothers and sisters. They were like the ones, their parents had traveled. They liked David Bowie while I still was listening to Kylie Minogue's version of The Locomotion.
Oh, yeah.
So like there was a transition where I abandoned certain things and I now I know about Pink Floyd and David Bowie and things. So I feel like I got a good education in film from like my cousins. And then a video store that was a little far away from us, but we would travel there because they had movies separated by directors, which made it a really cool video shop. Because I didn't even know what a director was.
Yeah.
Like, essentially the author, not the author didn't write it, but he's like he makes, it's his vision. So that was when I started learning, this is what a director does. And his movies have a particular style, or this person's movies. So I started it's like video stores and some good influences around me. And I didn't really go to school for film either. I went for literature, which are very similar. I mean, they're all telling stories, but I still took a film class here and there because I was always interested in it.
And what does so you kind of move up to Milwaukee and you sort of get into the scene. What is sort of Milwaukee's film scene like compared to other cities? Does anything like jump out at you? The
only difference in my mind, between Milwaukee and like Austin, which has a great film scene there, and I'm not going to talk about the coasts because they have their own movie industries. But like a city like ours without like the typical kind of industry that you're thinking of when you think of the movie industry, Austin, very successful because people know of Austin. People don't know enough about our film scene here. Milwaukee is for some reason, maybe because it's the Midwest, it's a hard city to get attention. Like that, it doesn't shine in the same way. It does, but people aren't seeing it for whatever reason. But there's an amazing, like UWM is one of the best film schools in the country. People move here to go to film school. So we have amazing talent here. We've had filmmakers that go on to South by Southwest, to go to Sundance. They've gone to I'm blanking on the name of there's a European festival that's a huge one that we always look at. They've gone there.
Cannes?
So it wasn't Cannes. It's not Antwerp. It's a lesser known one, but it's one that especially for up and coming, like really interesting filmmakers. We always look to that for the edgier stuff.
Okay.
And I can't believe I'm blanking on it, but they've gone on to do some amazing stuff. So we have a great film culture here and a great filmmakers, but just getting the rest of the world to see them is like just chipping away at it.
Well, and that's a real, that was one of my main sort of interests in bringing you on, like being a part of this scene and talking about how these local scenes sort of build to a larger, just a larger cultural thing that can spread throughout the world. It does well at the Milwaukee Film Festival. Milwaukee Film Festival is known for this kind of film, for these types of films, for films in general, just like how Austin did it.
Right.
Like Austin did this with film. It's also doing it with comedy. Nashville obviously did it with music. And Chicago has, Chicago's a little bit different because it's the third biggest city. So it's got a lot of pockets of all these things. Right. It's a little bit like the coast. But to really develop a scene that a city can be known for, I mean, it takes like decades of work, really, of fighting to be seen.
Yeah.
And we're, I guess, how far along do you think Milwaukee is on the process of becoming a thing that people really know Milwaukee for with film? Do you think like halfway there? Do you think it's on the top tier of it? Or do you think it's like people who know Milwaukee has a great film culture?
Yeah, I think that last thing for sure. I think people who know Milwaukee, well, actually, to be honest, I don't know about that. Like somebody in Milwaukee, just an average person, do they know that we have that film culture? Probably not, because they're mostly only exposed to like a mainstream advertising and marketing. So you're going to get the bigger ones. So people who come to the festival for sure. And the festival, that's why festivals in general, whatever city you're in, that is, if you like film at all, or if you think you like film, I mean, you can go there and discover stuff you've never thought to try out. And I think that's the coolest thing about festivals. I'm going off, I'll get back to the question.
Go off.
But when people go to, this happened to me, somebody who I considered myself a film buff before I started working for the festival and going to festivals. But the stuff I've discovered and learned that I really like because I saw it at a festival, I never would have gone in that direction or sought these movies out. With the festival, you don't have to seek it out. It's just laid there before you and go, here's a bunch of stuff that you've never tried before, and some stuff that you already know you like. The thing I always fight with the film festival is this idea that the film festival is a very highbrow affair and a lot of experimental and artsy fartsy films. We do have that. Like if you like that, we have it. But we also have zombie movies. Like we have like very socially important documentaries, but we also have very stupid, and I mean that affectionately, really silly, fun stuff too. We have stuff for kids. So the festivals are where you go to see anything that you like, you're going to find there, and then you'll find stuff you didn't know you liked. So I say that to say that when people come to the festival, they can sample those filmmakers, and they can sample filmmakers from around the world that they didn't know that they might enjoy. I think the difference here, and I think you know this because I saw your commercial about 100 times during the film festival for Action Wisconsin. Yeah. I thought it was Action Milwaukee for a second. Action Wisconsin, where we're one of the states that doesn't have tax incentives for the film industry to come here. When the filmmakers come here, we bring filmmakers in for not all the films, but a lot of the films that we have. And I love to see them, walk into the Oriental Theater and just look around and be so impressed with that building that we have here, because inevitably they're shocked by it, which is very cool. And then they have a good time at the festival, and then they get to talk to all the people after the films. Then they go out to their other festivals and to their homes and tell people, oh, Milwaukee was actually an amazing experience. And they usually use the word actually, because it's surprising people haven't thought of it yet. So there's like, they're going out there and chipping away at this idea about what we are as a film industry here. But if you get the prevailing film industry to come to our state to make movies more often, which they would, because we have every environment you need for a film. We have beaches, we have snow, we have forests, we have all the different ecosystems, and much more. Old Town, with the Public Enemies shot here, the Johnny Depp film, because we had the Old Town look. So there's a lot of reasons to come here to shoot films, except the main one, which is tax incentives.
Well, and thanks for bringing that up, because that was another reason I was excited to have you on and talk about that. But for those who don't know, Milwaukee, or Wisconsin rather, is sort of in the process of lobbying to get these sort of tax incentives for films to be shot here. At one point, Wisconsin had them. That was in the era of Public Enemies. And then what other movie was shot here? There
was one with David Strathairn, who I can't remember the name of it. They turned Brady Street into like an old town street.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it, but yeah.
Yeah. But the reason a lot of those movies were shot here is because our government set up tax incentives, and the quick and dirty of it is like, if your state doesn't have tax incentives, it's going to be almost impossible to get any Hollywood studio to film here, because it's going to be so much more cost effective anywhere else. That's why when Jon Stewart recently directed a movie starring Steve Carell about a Wisconsin politician, it was shot in Georgia. And it was very clear it was shot in Georgia.
Peach trees everywhere in the background.
I know. And that is such that really gets to the heart of sort of stories that we can own in the Midwest, and owning like stories. Like, the backdrop is a character. Like, your setting becomes characters in films, and if it's in a completely different setting, that's just an undeveloped character, and the whole movie suffers because of it, in my opinion, especially if it's about a politician from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I think what people often miss is that your number one advocates for that movie by word of mouth, which I still think is the most, and I think it's becoming an even more effective advertising tactic, is word of mouth. As we become more digital, it just means more when someone goes out of their way to tell you to watch something, as opposed to being fed into you.
Yeah.
That's gone, because people a lot of times, like, it's got to be so much better if you don't shoot it where you're at. Yeah. That's my little tangent on the whole situation. Where are you on sort of do you know anything more about what's going on with that process? Do you have hopes that Milwaukee or Wisconsin will get these tax incentives?
Yeah, I have hopes. I think as if the legislature changes demographic. And I don't really know why one side or the other would not want this for our state. Like, I really don't know what keeps people from putting those in place, because all it does is bring money to the place that they film and notoriety to the place that they film, and serves the industry that is already here, because they come in, they hire people who live here. We have people reach out to Milwaukee Film, even though this is not something we do. Understandably, they say Milwaukee Film, and they send an email saying, "Hey, I need a crew for this commercial or that, or I need permits. We don't know how to do that. We don't connect people. That's not our mission." But I see that people want this all the time. And when people come in from out of state in a bigger production, you're going to hire so many Milwaukee workers in the film industry. And then also you're going to utilize Milwaukee businesses, et cetera. So it seems a no-brainer, but it does seem to be something where our legislature has to shift a bit, and it's starting to, it seems. So I think as that happens, it'll be easier for that to come in.
Yeah, and I think
and I should say, this is my remedial version of what I understand of the situation.
Well, yeah, and I'm somewhat in the same scenario, but to my knowledge, it was sort of I think it's been kind of a bipartisan love-hate of doing it. And I think the problem has been that it's possible to have one film that comes in, and at the end of the day, it's kind of just a wash.
Sure.
Yes, you hired some local stuff, but we also had to hire the police. Yeah. And we had to, and that, but I think that there's something very valuable about like shooting in places, developing tourism around it, developing sort of it's almost like an advertisement for the state. Now, whether you want the state to be advertised or part of what makes it good is there's not a lot of people here. That's a whole other question altogether. Regarding Milwaukee Film, tell me what makes Milwaukee Film different or have its edge versus every other film festival in the country?
Yeah. So we've been going, this is our 16th festival we just had, fairly young by some standards. Seattle is a great festival we love, and they're celebrating their 50th anniversary. So they've been around a long time. But I think we haven't really had anything like this before. There was another incarnation that was kind of brief-lived right before us. But this has built so quickly. Our attendance, the length of our festival, the number of films we've shown has grown so rapidly that and it usually doesn't go that fast. I think the difference is we discovered that maybe because we have a film school here too, but maybe we just have a great arts culture here, but there's a great film going audience here. Like we run 2 theaters now, the Oriental Theater and the Downer Theater, which we just took over like last month, which was very exciting.
Yeah, I want to talk about that after this.
Me too. Yeah. But the fact that we can keep 2 nearly or over 100-year-old theaters going that have always shown films, among other things, in a landscape where a lot of like chain theaters are closing is really remarkable. And it's because of the community. It's because of the people who really want that experience. They want the festival. They want the year-round films. They want the community partnership, the special events and all that stuff. And they want these beautiful buildings that we have. Like they understand that they are treasures to be maintained and not to be just move on. We'll just watch stuff at home. So there's that. The audience is one of the main things I think that separates us, because people just love it. They love seeing these films. But then also, I mean, I think what we do is we tend to refer to ourselves as a best of fest. So different than like Tribeca or Sundance, where we're not premiering as many things. We will have a premiere here and there, but it's mostly like we see what everyone's showing. We see what's available overseas, here at home, around the nation, and we find the ones that we know that will do, that our audience would like to see. And then even a few that we're not sure that they'd like to see, but we would like them to see it. Because what happened to me, I want to happen to everybody else, which is like, I come in knowing I like X, Y, and Z. And then I realize there's a whole rest of the alphabet that I could like. Some of it I might not like, but I definitely like a lot more stuff than I did before. And I always say this on the podcast, why wouldn't you want more stuff to like?
Yeah.
Why do you only want to like 2 things when you could like 20 things?
Right. It's almost like, you know how like if you just want like a comfort thing to watch, you watch the same show you've always watched.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I feel like so many people that's their knee-jerk reaction anytime they're trying to be entertained. It's like, but you put yourself in these different scenarios and you do find more, you expand your thing.
And I totally get that inclination, especially with the pandemic hit. I only watched 80s movies for like 2 years. I'm like, I'm going to watch Footloose. I'm going to watch Lost Boys. Yeah. And just over and over. But
I've rewatched The Sopranos several times, so I am the exact same way.
Yeah, exactly. And I still do it, but you have to like, and it is a little bit of work. Like you have to try something out, or you don't. I mean, we have, like, if I wanted The Lost Boys, we had a great vampire movie at the festival. Like there's stuff that you like there too. But yeah, it's always worth it when you're like trying stuff out.
I like that. So it's kind of, you get things that you know will get butts and seats, and then you've got a bunch of experimental stuff, like almost one for them, one for you, a little bit, as the festival. Not you personally.
And we will have experimental stuff, but I hesitate to use the word experiment. I mean, I'm just talking about a movie from like France. That's not even that hard, or a movie from Korea, which right now Korea is having an amazing moment. I should say moment. It's been like 10, 15 years. They're making incredible stuff. Parasite winning the Oscar is a great example. Squid Games, but every year we've got some great movies from Korea. And again, I would never, you're not going to get that at the Wentzville Bishop 6 cinema that I had options for. I wouldn't have seen it had I not kind of gone out of my way.
And let me ask you this. What is sort of the thing that you kind of go for when you're like, all right, we know Milwaukee film goers will like these types of films. What are sort of the pillars that you...
A good, like, wholesome comedy. And I don't mean wholesome like it doesn't have cussing or it doesn't, I mean, it will still have that, but like, you know what they love is like a really sassy old lady.
Okay.
A sassy old lady will fill a theater.
Yeah.
We just had a film called Thelma with June Squibb, who's it's one of those names where I'm like, oh, I don't know the name, but you'll recognize her face. Mm-hmm. And sassy old lady, people absolutely ate it up. And it was a great movie. I mean, understandably.
Yeah.
But we have a member screening for our members, so every month our members can see this one movie for free, and we don't show it at the theater otherwise. So it's like just for them. Mm-hmm. And we do, and I program those, and I program a variety, but I realized in our history, we've had 3 movies about old ladies who turn into pot dealers. Yeah. Like that's a movie that at least 3 of those movies have been made, and we've shown 2 of them, or 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they love that. They love that.
All right. So sassy old lady comedies.
Sassy old lady. Yeah. Also a great, our audience loves documentaries of all sorts. They love a socially conscious documentary, but they also like a fun documentary, which I didn't realize. That was another thing I discovered, that documentaries can be fun, and not just like sad and like, or hopeful. Those are always inspiring. But there's one of my favorite moments from the festival was my first festival. We had a movie called Beauty is Embarrassing, which is a great title. And it was about an artist named Wayne White. Wayne White does these great paintings where he gets paintings from like garage sales of like a meadow, but then he'll paint in as if they were originally in the film. He'll paint in, or the painting, words, like big 3D words. So this beautiful bucolic scene, and it says, fuck you invasion. And it's a bunch of ships coming onto the ship. I mean, he's just very reverent and fun, but he also did a lot of the sets and puppets for Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Oh, really?
And he was the voice of Randy, if you remember.
Yeah.
That. So he's had a lot of different jobs, and there's a whole documentary about him, and his whole philosophy was art is fun as well. Like, and everything it is going to be fun. So he came, and I got to do the interview with him, and he and I happened to have at the time the exact same beard. And I said, you and I should get a picture with our beards pushed together. And before I didn't even finish the sentence, he goes, yep. And I was like, oh, this is great. So we just had this great. So, I mean, there's like that kind of stuff. Docs our audience love, and a good fun doc.
Yeah.
Or a good, social issue. Our members are right there for that.
What about horror films, and what genre is that? Because that specific genres of horror films are just whatever, they kind of say something about the time you're in. Yeah. I wonder if they say something about the people of Milwaukee.
Oh, that's a good question. So for like member screenings, the things that I was doing, I don't usually program a horror film because our demographic, we do have a variety, but tends to skew older, a little bit more, we've tried one out here and there, not so, but at the festival,
old ladies dealing pot.
That's
not
great.
So much. Yeah.
But vampires maybe not so much. We've tried out a bunch of like horror movies do great at the theater year round. Mm-hmm. And then Kirsten, who's our programming director, does an amazing job every Halloween with coming up with a new theme. So this year we're doing, I think, 21 vampire movies in October. Trying to find out which ones they like the best is hard because it's going to depend on when we show it and how we market it and everything, to try to really get a good vibe, to get that deep into which horror kind of movie. Do you like body horror? Do you like, psychological thrillers? So we're showing vampire movies and then a variety within that, because you've got classics from the 80s. You've got Nosferatu, you go back to a silent film. You've got arty ones, Only Lovers Left Alive, which is a very arty one with Tilda Swinton. But then you have, like I said, Lost Boys or something like that. So we're going to show and Blade, one of my all-time favorites. So we'll show the gamut and kind of see who shows up for those.
Well, so you're going vampire movies this year. Isn't there something like, and I don't know this as well as you probably do, but like if it's vampire movies, it means society is responding to this in sort of like there's a cyclical cycle, and werewolves, it means society responding to that.
I've heard this too.
Like, do you think the vampires is symbolic of technology just sucking our lives away or something?
It could be also when we have an abundance of body horror, which is the really gory ones. What does that say about our time? Yeah. I don't know. I've seen stuff like that too, where like vampire movies came from this the plague time. Like vampires in general, I think the lore came from plague era times where they were trying to figure out why people were sick in this particular way. And of course, everyone blames the devil or the lack of or more of the devil.
Because that is the cause.
Because that's the cause of most stuff. Demons. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it says about us. And I don't know which ones Milwaukee is most into. That's something like, we dig into.
Right. That's sort of like a dissertation somebody at UW Milwaukee would write for their film critic, whatever. So let's circle back to the theater, because I think keeping local theaters alive in 2024 with all the other technological things at our fingertips, a very difficult thing. Yeah. And the Downer Theater, it closed last year.
Yeah, it closed a few months ago. Honestly, it was like 7 months ago. And
it's been open since 1915. Yeah. Right? Something like early 1900s. It used to be silent films, and they had a pipe organ there playing during the silent. So it's been around forever. Yeah. And then it gets to this place of closing, and then you guys bought it. So what's...
Yeah, so we had been talking about the Downer for a long time. That was always been something that we thought if it became available, we would love to be able to be a steward of it. And I think we were working toward that goal. I don't know if because of that, the Landmark theaters decided to shut it down or if it was just a coincidence, or I don't know how the timing worked out. Okay. But we had plans about it, but then to see if it became available, and then it did become available very quickly. So we had to act fast. And Anne Reed, who's our current CEO, she joined specifically because she said, I really want to make sure we get that theater. We take care of that theater. And she worked really hard to get a lot of local support. And this is, again, what I'm saying about this community came together quick to say, yeah, we'll pitch in. We got some great donations from some great individuals and organizations so we could get it started. So we're leasing it currently for we have a 5-year lease. We do have the option to purchase it after a couple of years or within a couple of years. So we'll be doing a campaign next year to try to raise money to do that. Then once we do that, we can really start investing in the longevity of the place, just like we did with the Oriental Theater when we took that over in 2018. Did a great capital campaign. We had these consultants who said, we raised like $10 million within a year and a half. And they said, people your age, meaning your organization, don't raise that much money that quickly for something like this, which meant to me that this is what our community wanted. They really came out for it. So yeah, the fact that we're able to now run 2 historic movie houses at all in one city is crazy. And then 2 that have always been showing movies for that long. Like that's a rare scenario. To have them a half mile from each other is bananas. Right. And it's so convenient and helpful to make that district essentially a historic cinema district. If, we're saying that now in the hopes that we officially will become that at some point. But that's amazing to have two venues like this right near each other running movies. We have 5 screens now, and we had 3 before with the Oriental Theater, and having 5 screens opens up so many options for us. We're showing new movies. We'll show blockbusters here and there. We can show independent films. We can show we call it repertory films. It just means older movies, anywhere from the 90s, calling that older, or 2000s, all the way to the silent films. We just had live organ accompaniment to a silent Alfred Hitchcock film last night. Oh, wow. And we had 200 people come out to see silent film with live accompaniment, old Alfred Hitchcock. We can do that and show The Fall Guy.
Yeah.
Within the same week is amazing to me. Yeah.
Folks, excuse the interruption, but I got to let you know that we have the best of the best solar panels on this roof right now. Everlight Solar, ladies and gentlemen, they are powering this podcast. It would not be possible if we didn't have their power. Free power, by the way, harnessing the energy of the sun, sucking it in, putting it into these lights, and now we are cooking with gas. And by gas, I mean solar power. Check it out for your free consultation. Go to everlightsolar.com, and they'll come out. They'll tell you if solar panels are right for your house. Do your pocketbook a favor. Do the planet a favor. Check it out, everlightsolar.com. And folks, I got to tell you, being loyal has its benefits, especially when you are a Fleet Farm Rewards member. You can sign up for their free rewards program and start earning points towards Fleet Bucks, which you can redeem on future purchases at the Fleet Farm. Plus, you'll get awesome special benefits like a birthday reward, exclusive offers, more time to redeem your rewards, and so much more. Sign up for free today and start earning points. FleetFarm.com/rewards. And also, I got to tell you guys, Father's Day is right around the corner. I know what Dad wants. He wants a cribbage board. He wants a tackle box. He wants koozies. He wants sweatshirts. He wants all kinds of stuff, and we got it for you. Manitowocminute.com. Click on the merch section. Or you can buy him a bottle of Barron's Old Fashioned Brandy so he can have a nice old fashioned on Father's Day. There it is, Barron's Old Fashioned Brandy. There you get it. Okay, so yeah, a lot of ideas for you and what you can get your pops. All right, let's get back to my conversation with Kristopher Pollard.
Film is kind of like I don't know. It's what you just said is sort of a microcosm for technology as it goes and how film changes. It used to be silent films with an organ accompaniment, and now we're sort of at the age of, and I always talk about this, so I'm sure some people in the audience are like, oh, I've been waiting for this, but the AI situation Colleen, I know you don't need to put your head in your hand on this, all right? No, but it is the next, and Hannah, who's editing all of it, it is the next generation of, I mean, you have generative, what is it, Soros, what's that thing called, I know what you're talking
Soros.
about. It's essentially a thing where you plug in the elements you want to see and it creates a full film right away. Like you're like, I saw somebody make like if South Park took place in the 50s and it was a live action film, and it made that. You know, and did it have some issues? Yeah, but not really many. And given technology increases exponentially, you kind of wonder, where does the film business go? And will there always be a demand for traditional film opportunities that, you know, is that a thing that people are going to continue to desire and create? And do you have any thoughts of that? Have you heard any thoughts on that?
It's hard to know because I'm only familiar with AI through films and what they have expressed AI is going to do.
That's a really good question. What have films told us is going to happen by embracing artificial intelligence?
Universally, they have told us ain't going to be great.
Okay.
They're definitely going to turn us into pets. So that's the only, I have no technical knowledge of how this works, what's going to be used for, but it does disturb me. It does disturb me. I like to believe that at the heart of it, people can tell the difference between a story generated by a human, or I would say largely, I'm sure there's people who can't. And I would like to believe that they're going to not want that. But I like to believe that. I don't know that I do believe that. I just want and like to believe it. It's confusing because I can see a world where people are like, yeah, I don't really care. I just want to be fed a thing that I know about. And I think that that's the thing is like that's a great example. I'm taking something I already know about. I'm putting it in a slightly different scenario. Show me that version versus an original idea that comes from somebody who lived that experience, understands it rather than the computer. I like to believe that that's going to be different.
Can I butt in?
Yes.
I do agree that I don't think that people will want it because I saw it during the festival Late Night with the Devil.
Oh yeah, I was going to talk about that. Yeah.
They got a lot of flack for just creating some like transition graphics with AI.
Yeah.
And something as small as that, and people got that upset about it. I feel like they're not going to want their whole movies made by AI.
Thank you, Hannah. What's your thoughts on that?
I saw that movie and it was really good. Did you enjoy that?
Yeah,
movie?
I loved it.
It's really fun horror, and that was a horror / comedy almost. But yeah, they only used AI to generate these like in the old. So it's based on like a 70s late night talk show where they essentially summon the devil for sweeps week to try to get attention. But it's a great plot. But they just made, you know how they do like on the Carson show, the more to come, and there's like a graphic of a raccoon going, stay right there, or whatever. They did that for this. It was the most pointless use of AI because anyone could have made it. That's the thing I don't understand. I wasn't up in arms that they used it for this seemingly innocuous thing, but like you could have easily had someone just make those. Like they weren't complicated. They weren't particularly, I mean, it was literally like a raccoon leaning on a TV or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm more confused as to why they
did it.
Out of the whole film, they needed to do it for that versus the fact that used it. But yeah, people were incensed that like they thought that I think when you hear AI was used in the film, they think, oh, they must have created a lot of the film using AI, and that made people crazy. Which made, I'm happy that they were reactive in that situation.
And it's so the majority of people, and Hannah, chime in here too if you know this, the majority of people's reaction to that was like upset that they used AI, or did most people not care, or what was it?
Well, it's hard to know because when you have this is another thing I'm just never trust any source anymore.
Yeah.
When you have people up in arms for use of AI in Late Night with the Devil, I wonder, because I know that there's been stories where there's a reporter will see 3 people mention it and then they say fans are upset. Well, 3 people were. So, but in this situation, the things that we heard were, they were upset that AI was used, but I think part of it was because they didn't know what it was used for.
Got it.
Like when you look at what it was used for, it's really innocuous, but they thought, oh, this movie was made by AI. They immediately went to, it's a difference between reading a headline and reading the article probably.
Yeah, I think it creeps people out a little bit, but if we look to the history of film, and you kind of just brought it up using the organ and silent film.
Yeah.
And if we look to sort of how it has transitioned over the years, I feel like there are those who are like when CGI first came out, I don't want to go watch a full CGI movie, or like 3D was an example of technology that didn't really take off and was not the future of things. But you largely have those who embrace it, and that's kind of pop culture historically, I feel. And then those who sort of reject it, and they kind of become more of the people involved in something like a scene, a city scene, film scene, or like a festival scene.
Right.
And do you see that as different, or any nuances to add to that?
I think the biggest difference in like you were saying, the evolution is all of those evolutionary kind of milestones still involved people and craftspeople. Like CGI artists are still artists. They have to make some incredible stuff. And I think I was one of those people. I grew up in the 80s, so I love the DIY look of those 80s films. Like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. That's one of my other ones. I've got an Everlasting Gobstopper tattoo as well. Just want to point that one out.
Yeah.
That movie cannot be made. Like Wonka came out and I'm like, you can't recapture. They made a giant boat. They made like these sets and everything. You can tell they were on a set in a good way. Yeah. So I grew up, and when CGI became a thing, I was one of those people who's resistant. And I was like, now we're never going to see an animated movie where that's hand drawn again, like that kind of thing. I like a CGI. Now I can appreciate CGI, but I also appreciate it knowing that humans made, like artists still make that stuff. This is a different shift where you're right. It could be there's always maybe in 40 years, AI is going to seem like, oh, we all battled it and now it's just a part of everything. But the only thing that disturbs me the most is that it's just not being created by people. That's being created. It's being set up by people and then just let loose. But again, maybe in the future, it's like, that's how they started off. And then human beings adjusted and give it the soul that it does. So it's really hard to know, but it does feel different than those other milestones to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's kind of as a creative, there's the idea that you can reject it and say, no, I'm staying pure to my art.
Yeah.
And the likelihood you will then get left behind because those who embrace it, especially a technology like this, I think will have probably more potential to catapult as opposed to those who reject it. And I don't think that's a good thing. And I don't think it's necessarily good to not really have a choice, although I don't know that that's true.
Yeah.
But do you have any thoughts on that, about needing to accept to sort of to catapult and not even catapult, just to keep up?
Just to keep going.
Do you think people have to accept AI to keep up with, if you want to have a business and make this part of what you do, you have to accept it? Do you believe that?
I think it's too early to tell because I don't know how people, I know how the business wants to use it. And the business, more than ever, is running the industry. I don't know if that's true more than ever. I feel like in the classic Hollywood era, business was really running it too. But these are business decisions being made. And of course, AI makes business people light up because it's like, oh, we don't have to hire a fraction of the people we hired but now, and we can still make stuff that people want to see. That's the belief. If that catches on and that does become a thing, then yes, there's a point at which some people are going to be left behind. But I don't know how you adapt as a creative with this. And I'm using a fictionalized version of how this industry goes forward because I don't know how it's going to. But as a creative, how do you adapt to that industry and still continue on with it? Because the creative element is ostensibly being taken out of it. Unless, like I said, it's the AI is giving you sort of a template, and then you have creative people build it up, beyond that.
Kind of a catch-22 though, because the more you input into these things, the more it learns your creativity, the less you're needed.
And the closer to the cages we get.
It's almost like the light that we know it's bad, but we can't look away.
Yeah, it's like all fast food.
It is funny how much of the AI stuff and the futuristic stuff is a mirroring of movies, though.
Yeah,
and it's almost like. Well, and that makes sense because we had these ideas as humans. We put them in movies, and then it influenced future humans to make stuff that looks like even the Star Trek like the cell phone is very similar to the first one they used in Star Trek.
That's a good point. Yeah,
and then like. Elon Musk's super ass ugly, what's it called? That thing looks like something you'd see in RoboCop.
Yeah.
The Cybertruck, yes.
Oh, yeah.
So I wonder how much films predict the future or how much films just influence the future.
Yeah, it was like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
Yeah, because I think it was the 70s and 80s was all these movies about people spying on you, the government spying on you, and cameras everywhere. That was futuristic. Now, literally, cameras are everywhere.
Everywhere.
And we know they're spying on us, and we're just like my phone. I mean, I don't know if this is the government, but that whole thing where like you just casually talk about stuff and your phone starts saying, "Oh, would you like some of that? Because here's a bunch of places you can get it." That's that's all very commonplace now.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
You can even influence, like if you have a significant other, you just say like,
diamond ring.
Yeah, exactly. Diamond ring or like whatever you want. Like new saw cuts, circular saw. Great idea. for Father's Day or whatever guys want for Father's
Yeah.
Day. But yeah, I don't or like that those dumbass Apple iPhone things. Colin, quit putting your head in your hand every time I go on my tangent. This is one of the most annoying things about the Cripescast is that every time I'm going on one of my tangents and I'm getting excited, I see her through the corner of just doing that.
This is the only advantage. Our producer for Cinebuds is they take the audio afterwards. They're not in the room, but the number of times I will mention MacGruber and Blade and then apologize for talking about. Yeah. Oh, I mentioned them a lot.
We should have an AI counter.
We need bingo.
Oh, yeah.
Like, podcast episodes since Charlie has brought up AI.
Days at 0.
0 days without
Days since
incident.
AI has been brought
Let
up.
me clarify. Look, the reason I keep bringing up AI is I think a lot of people, I'm bringing it up because so many jobs, and it's really not about like the existential threat of it. I mean, there's part of that, no doubt. But it's a lot of people who are currently working in their jobs. I think they should be constantly reminded of this before you're just so you know what's happening. Because I think the way this stuff progresses at such a high speed, it could be literally an overnight thing or an over a couple months thing where a lot of people lose their jobs.
Right.
And so much of the AI is existential and is beyond comprehension that people just bury their head in the sand. And so they don't do anything. And so I think just like continuing to gently point out its progress, which has been exponential. And I think it would be interesting for people to just go. But anyway, before Kelly was burying her head in her hands, I was talking about the Apple Vision thing because we actually had a little segment on it in last week's podcast when it was in Ask Me Anything. And I think I was like, just take that whole thing out.
It'll be on Patreon this week.
It'll be on Patreon this week if you really want to listen to it. But I thought I sounded like just a grumpy, angry jackass.
Your Patreon's going to have a different demographic than
I know. I went off to the point where I was listening back to it. I was like, I sound like a prick. Take this off. But, the Apple Vision, now I'm going to go back on it. Like, you put that thing on, and it's like the Terminator when he shows up to that bar and he sees everyone, and it gives their specs.
Yeah.
And that sort of, what is that, biometrics? Yeah. Like, you can walk down the street in just south of LA or just around the LAX airport. I forget the town, Playa Vista, something like that. You can walk down that street and they have so many cameras there. They know exactly who's walking down the street because I think because of its proximity to the airport, or they have a lot of CIA people that live there or something. I don't know what the exact story is, but there is something about that city in particular where you can walk down the street. I heard this on another podcast, so I don't really know. I don't know how true this is.
The article, you saw the headline.
Yeah, but I saw that headline. I don't even remember. But you walk down the street and biometrics can tell you exactly who that person is. That's exactly what Terminator is when he's got biometrics on his little, in his eyes, you know? And then they talk about putting the Neuralink in your brain, Yeah. So, I mean, it's all running that way.
Yeah. We had a documentary about facial recognition software and how it is intrinsically prejudiced. But that, and I want to say the word code is in it, but I'm forgetting the title of it. But that doc went like crazy. Like tons of people were asking, we want to show this at our school. We want to show this at our community group. And people it was really well attended. Like that was a very high interest to our audience for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think anything where you kind of have to face, quite pun intended, the fact of what's happening.
And hearing about something that seems on the surface, police just use that to help themselves, versus the reality of it that gets a little bit grimy. Yeah. And also to go back really quickly to what we were talking about, Milwaukee stories and filmmakers. I did want to also point out, and this is just like a pet peeve, I like LA and New York are obviously amazing cities. But if I see another movie where New York is a character and LA is a character, this is what we're talking about, getting people to go to different states to make movies about those states. each state, each city, each town has their own stories and interesting characters that we constantly see 2 or 3 cities represented in a lot of films.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's nice to see a film that's about another place that's actually in that place, that actually draws on something that's a little bit different than what you're going to see when it's.
Yeah. I mean, because otherwise, you just get this sort of like homogenous, same jokes. And you see the same New York jokes in every New York movie, and you see the same that's how they become tropes, and then it's so annoying. They do this a lot of times in TV though. Like Happy Days, for instance, they shot it all on a stage. There was nothing really about Milwaukee in it, or The Office when they're driving, you see palm trees. I mean, It's Always Sunny at least embraces the fact that,
true.
And you make it kind of a parody situation. But I think it would be really cool to bring, and I do think that's a benefit to technology. As you embrace it, you can. Well, I don't know if it's a benefit because, again, you get smaller. You can do it on your own, but you have smaller crews is what that means. You know?
And then sometimes I think that can make a better movie. Like I'm always talking about the things that we repeat over and over on my show is like, I love the idea of taking a filmmaker that has all the resources that they've earned, over paying their dues. They made smaller movies. Like Wes Anderson's a great example. I always say, I would love to see Wes Anderson go back and use the budget he used for Bottle Rocket, which was a great movie. And even his first couple movies, like he still had a lot of stars in them, but he had like one story he was going through, a couple of the side stories. But now it's like, how many stars can I fit in my movie? It's all symmetrical. I still like them, and I like him as a filmmaker, but I would be fascinated to see what he would do creatively if he didn't have all the money and all the stars at his disposal again. I think it gets people to be really creative. I mean, there's a point at which I need a few more bucks to make this perfect. But somewhere in the middle there at that beginning space is where you're the most creative because you have to be.
It's almost like a 24-hour film festival, but like an under $1 million film festival. Yeah. And that is an interesting thing, because that's how the movie business goes, is why you see these Wes Anderson films or superhero films with so many stars. It's like, okay, who can we attach? Yeah. It's just you're attaching a following, and it's a money move.
Right.
But hey, before I let you go, we're kind of running close on time.
Sure.
I want to do a little. Hannah came up with this little trivia situation. We got movie trivia for you. So
just ahead of time, I want to say my brain is old.
Yeah,
and that this is the kind of thing where when I have any amount of pressure, I am not going to come up with the answer.
You're coming up with excuses beforehand.
Yes, I just want to say that. Feel free to edit it out, but I know I said it.
I like your tactic. You're setting the bar low so we can walk right over it.
Yeah.
All right, movie trivia. What are the dying words of Charles Foster Kane in Citizen Kane?
Rosebud.
Ding, ding, ding. What legendary pop star judges a fashion walk-off between Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson in Zoolander?
Mr. David Bowie.
Wow, real good.
Right,
see,
so
we're off to a good start.
I was worried.
Here. All right. Just Dance. For what movie did Steven Spielberg win his first Oscar for Best Director?
Oh.
Here's a hint. It wasn't Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Schindler's List?
Yes. Hey, quick question.
I thought it was a later one.
Quick question. This is an offshoot.
Yeah.
Do you like the movie Hook?
I do now. I actually recently watched it for the first time.
For the first time?
My wife and I, we're only like 9 years apart, but it really hit different generationally. Like that was her jam.
How old is your wife?
She's 38.
Okay.
Yeah.
She and I, pretty close.
Okay, yeah.
I'm 37.
Okay.
And
I'm 40.
Hook was my jam.
But I watched it not long ago, maybe like a year ago. I really enjoyed it. I love Robin Williams, so I really enjoyed it.
Oh, it was very enjoyable.
Yeah.
You didn't think it was a little weird?
Oh, it's weird. Yeah, but
freaking bizarre, dude.
I use weird as a very positive adjective. So yeah, the weirder the better.
I mean, so first of all, Steven Spielberg calls this calls Hook the biggest regret of his career.
Really?
Yes. I think. I mean, I read that and I did not, byline. Kind of like everything else. Do your own research, people. But that surprised me because growing up, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was my favorite movie. And sometimes I'm sitting in the mirror, looking in the mirror, and I pull my skin back. I'm like, there you are, Charlie. And or sometimes I go up to my nose and I just go like tink, with the little knife.
Yeah.
But then I go back and I watch it. And I'm like, wait a second, is Peter trying to, is this grandma trying to make a move on Peter after the fact?
Oh, I don't remember that bit.
Yeah. And also, Peter,
it does get
Wendy,
weird with
gets sexual with him and she's, on her deathbed. I mean, give one for the Gipper, I mean, you got to do what you got to do, Wendy.
It's your last.
Why not go out with a bang?
Yeah.
But and then the other situation of how Peter talks about how he left his mom, how he ran away as a kid. He was in a bonnet, a bassinet, a little stroller, and then he goes down the hill because the wind blows. Oh, that was how he ran away as a baby. And then Tink found him, and Tink wrapped him up and took him. Tink kidnapped Peter.
Yeah, a baby.
And then Tink decides to get big and tries to slide in on Peter with his wife. I mean, poor Peter's wife, who is also the great-granddaughter of Wendy. Wendy's trying to, slide into Peter's DMs. Tink's trying to slide in his DMs. Poor Wendy's great-granddaughter, she's like, she can't even have her man back because he's out there flying. Wild.
It does. There's a lot more subtext in that movie than I thought there was.
There is. I wanted to do a sketch watching Hook then versus watching Hook now.
That is a good idea.
Where it's like Rufio, and then when you're cut to your 37, like, she trying to bang Wendy's. She's trying to bang Wendy. Isn't he married to her great-granddaughter? What the hell is going on here? This is a kid's movie.
There's something about that movie where that doesn't hit you on the first watch
for
some reason.
But God, some great scenes like where they grab the invisible food. And
the invisible food scene is like the best part of it. I don't get everyone's attraction to Rufio because if you grew up with that movie, people are real into Rufio, and I didn't really get his appeal. But again, I watched it as a 40-something.
What do you mean you didn't get his appeal?
I didn't get his appeal 100%. He was really standoffish to Peter. He was kind of a bully.
Yeah, he's a little bully. He was threatened though.
Yeah, I get it.
Well, okay. Can you my original question before I just went way off the deep end? Do you understand? You don't understand why Spielberg calls it the biggest regret of his career?
No, I don't. And I'm trying to think what should be. I'm immediately going through the whole thing. It's hard to find a regret with somebody like Steven Spielberg. There's some pretty solid choices.
He puts his name as executive producer on a lot of regretful films.
That's true. Yeah, I'm just thinking of the directing stuff, but I'm sure you're right.
I mean, that's just a money move anyway. Yeah. All right, back to the quiz.
Okay.
What Hollywood movie star plays himself in Zombieland?
Oh, Bill Murray.
In Risky Business, what song did Tom Cruise famously lip sync to in his underwear?
Old Time Rock and Roll.
Old Time Rock and Roll. Correct. Which movie was incorrectly announced as the winner of the 2017 Best Picture Oscar?
It's one of my favorite moments. La La Land was the answer.
Yeah.
And I have to say that it's one of the few movies, I didn't hate it, but I did walk out of La La Land. I was just sort of bored. And I know it's a beloved movie, but I was like, I'm fine just leaving. And then when it was up for all these awards, I got kind of annoyed because I thought it was so bland. And then I loved Moonlight so much. And that was a beautiful moment for me where I was just so angry for like a minute. And then my face lit up when I saw what was happening. It was great.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was very exciting for me.
Well, the end of La La Land was the best part.
Yeah, I missed all that stuff.
Actually, I can't remember. I just remember they parked their cars in the middle of the highway and started dancing. Was that?
I do
movie?
Remember that. Yeah,
I wasn't overly impressed.
Yeah,
I don't really like movies about LA that much.
Yeah.
Who wrote the famous scary theme music from Hollywood?
Halloween.
I was just talking about LA, so I'm a Halloween. Thank you, Hannah.
Oh,
At least someone's paying attention to this podcast.
I don't have my phone. I don't have that, and I don't know what you're saying. I'm a fan right now. I'm just the viewer.
All right. Who wrote the famous scary theme music from Halloween?
Oh, the wah, wah, wah. That's up. I don't know. I don't think I know that.
Okay. Do you want a hint?
Yeah.
Jesus was a
Carpenter. A Karen Carpenter? I just realized.
John Carpenter is the name here.
Did I not say John Carpenter? I said, no.
And so that's your first one. So
Is that it?
No, that's Twilight Zone.
Hold on.
It's like where he's going to stab.
Yeah, the wee. But I do now that you, I mean, I'm not making excuses, but I do know that he was a composer, but I didn't realize he'd written that, which makes sense.
Well, they are not all easy.
No, yeah.
In Apocalypse Now, Robert Duvall says, "I love the smell of blank in the morning."
Napalm.
Yes.
Okay, I got the music, guys.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
John Carpenter.
Someone should put a trap beat to this.
I'm pretty sure
ask
they have.
AI to do that pretty quick. Can we do? Which famous composer wrote the music to Tim Burton's 1989 Batman?
Danny Elfman.
Yes. Which Alfred Hitchcock thriller is notorious for its shocking shower scene?
Well, it's not Notorious, which is another Alfred Hitchcock film, but it is Psycho.
Quit showing off, dude. Who wrote the screenplay for Rocky?
Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah. What is the real name of Uma Thurman's character, the bride from Kill Bill?
Oh, she
has
has
one.
Oh, that is a tough one. She has a real name. I don't know that.
Beatrix Kiddo.
Okay, that checks out. I mean, that's something he wrote.
Yeah. How is he still not canceled?
If you would like me to come back and do another whole podcast on him, I'd love to.
Yeah. Good Lord. Yeah. We should do that. We should do a deep dive on Tarantino.
I'm so over Tarantino, and I know a lot of people still love his movies, but I liked 3 of his movies. I like Pulp Fiction, I like Reservoir Dogs, and I like True Romance, which he didn't direct. And then after that, honestly, I've liked a few here and there, but not as a whole.
Right.
Yeah, he got so big that he just doesn't listen to anyone, so he makes like 3 movies and pushes them into one now. And that's just his filmmaking. That's not even about him as a person.
Yeah, he has an ego.
Yeah, that's a quicker way of saying what I was saying.
3 of Jim Carrey's blockbusters, The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, and Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, were all released in what year?
Oh, this is just a guess. 1992?
4.
Oh, not too bad.
That, very
not
close.
Bad.
Isn't that crazy though to
that
come out with
wild.
Like all? It says right here blockbusters. That he must have made like, I don't know.
And I just saw something about how they said Pet Detective, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. And on paper, I get this. At the time, everyone was like, look, apparently Chris Rock was at the premiere and he was talking to somebody else, goes, no one's going to see this movie. Like they all dismissed it. This is going to be a huge flop.
Yeah. And then
not so much.
Jim Carrey's the kind of guy that he can just sell any line.
Yeah.
You know? By the way, Tommy Boy, when it came out, huge flop.
Was it really?
Yeah. Or huge critical flop.
It's always amazing the films that came out. Wizard of Oz was a huge flop when it came out.
Critically?
Well, I don't know about critically, but it didn't. Econowalk showed for the first time, actually.
Yeah, that's a fun fact about Wisconsin.
It is a fun fact. But also, it's weird the movies that were flops and then end up being a huge like cultural success.
Yeah. Beverly Hills Ninja?
Surprisingly a flop.
Shocker.
And now we show it every Christmas.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? The movies have become like Die Hard, also in the Christmas deal, the 10 Commandments every Easter.
Yeah.
The Godfather's on around Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's wild.
It is a wild thing. All right. Which movie star is killed off in the opening scene of Scream?
Oh, Drew Barrymore?
Indeed. Okay. What is the name of Humperdinck's kingdom in The Princess Bride?
Oh, this makes me so sad because it's one of my favorite movies. The Kingdom. Can you give me a hint? What letter does it start with?
F.
No, I got nothing.
Florin.
I don't think that doesn't even ring a bell.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. And wow, I haven't seen The Princess Bride in a while. Great quiz, Hannah.
Yeah.
A mix of some hard ones and some soft ones.
What if this one's just wrong?
What is the first foreign language movie to win an Oscar for Best Picture?
Oh.
I think we brought it up earlier.
Was it Parasite?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought, well, that's great.
Yeah. What is the first rule of Fight Club?
You don't talk about Fight Club.
You are absolutely right about that. And that is the first rule of the Cripes. What were you keeping score at least? That's the first rule of Cripescast.
A terrible.
We don't keep score. To hell with it.
Yes. I say, what a terrible rule for a podcast. You have to talk about the podcast.
Before we leave, can you let people know where to follow you, where to get Cinebuds, all that type of stuff?
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you, Colleen. Yeah, we gotta do the plugs over here. Did you just double middle finger me, Colleen?
Oh wait, yeah, that's
now she's doing pinkies and ring fingers.
Legally, she got out of it.
Yeah.
That's clever.
We got to put a camera on you over there.
This is exciting. I've never been able to do plugs before.
Yeah, plug it. Tell us about Cinebuds. By the way, great podcast, very fun.
You, yeah.
Such a variety of like guests and a variety of topics, and I appreciate your deep dives on a lot.
Thank you.
Things that, and specifically, I was it came out recently. My brother also listens to the podcast, so we talk about it every now and again. But what was the "We Are the World" song?
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
I enjoyed hearing about that whole process and everything.
Yeah, that's a wild movie. And we just at the festival we just had a Cyndi Lauper documentary too. So I got a lot of Cyndi Lauper was the highlight of that movie for me because you hear them all sing without the music. You can just hear them in the studio, like, and you kind of forget that she's got real chops. Like she was. Yeah. Without all the, pop and everything behind it, she was amazing. And yet also hilarious because she's got that voice. And
yeah.
That was a terrible Cyndi Lauper, but
yeah, you tried.
Yeah, give it a really minimal shot. But Cinebuds is a partnership between Milwaukee Film and Radio Milwaukee. Dory Zori, who's like an icon in broadcasting, she does it with me. Comes out every Wednesday. You can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts. Just search Cinebuds. mkefilm.org. That's Milwaukee Film's page. You can see what we're showing year round at the Downer and the Oriental Theater. And we have festivals. We have a big festival that comes up in the spring. And then in the fall, we have a new one coming up called Dialogues, which is going to be a 4-day documentary film festival in September. So keep an eye out for that as well. And then personally, you can go to kpoly.com. I'm also an illustrator. kpoly.com has links to all my bits.
Did you draw your...
I didn't trust myself. So I had the tattoo artist do these.
It's kind of like you don't operate on your own child. Yeah,
that's
right. Draw your own tattoos.
I don't hang any of my art in my house because that feels weird, much less put it on my body.
Oh, man. Well, thank you so much for coming in. Yeah. This was super fun, and we're going to need you to sign the wall before you leave.
Happily. Yeah, thanks for having me. This is
awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the podcast. Check out Cinebuds on Radio Milwaukee. Follow at Cinebuds Podcast. If you want to check out Kristopher's art, follow at kpolyart. You can follow Milwaukee Film at MKE Film. Visit mkefilm.org for information of screenings and Milwaukee Film membership. And that's it, guys. Hey, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Everyone, keep her moving. Watch for deer, and we'll see you next week.
So roll out the barrel and get the band brewing. Life's got you down, just keep her moving. It's on Wisconsin, the Badgers say it's the old Wisconsin Jubilee.
You know, sometimes when you're ice fishing, you put your foot in the walleye hole and go ass over tea kettle and you think you're done. No, you gotta keep her moving.